What's going on, guys? We're back with some more X-Men 97, and I have to admit, so far it's actually pretty good, like really good. Now in this episode, some new characters made their appearance, but there's one in particular that I want to focus on in this video. This character right here. This is Gabriel Summers, also known as Vulcan. Vulcan is the second brother of Scott Summers, and he has a very complicated history with the X-Men, which I'm going to explain. Now if you notice, in episode 6 of X-Men 97, Vulcan is seen with the Imperial Guard of the Shi'ar Empire. The Shi'ar Empire in Marvel Comics is essentially an intergalactic race that rules over millions of worlds, and the Imperial Guard is like their private army. Part of Vulcan's origin is tied directly to the Shi'ar Empire, and at one point in the comics he eventually became their ruler. Now when Catherine Summers was pregnant, her and Corsair were kidnapped by the Shi'ar Empire. Catherine was killed by Lord Decan, who was the ruler of the Shi'ar Empire at the time, but the child lived, whom was given the name Gabriel and kept in an incubator. Once Gabriel got a little older, he was sent to Earth to be a slave, and he would read a lot of books, which is where he got his initial name, Kid Vulcan. Vulcan in Roman mythology is the god of fire. It was at this time that Gabriel's powers began to manifest, and given that he was still pretty young, he couldn't control them, so he ran away. Gabriel would then encounter Moira McTaggart, who taught him how to control his powers, and given her connection to Professor X, she introduced them, and this is how he became a member of the X-Men under the name Kid Vulcan. Now one day Gabriel and some other mutants were sent on a mission to rescue Scott on the island of Krakoa, which is a living island basically, and this is when they found out that they were brothers, but as they were leaving, the island became active and attacked Gabriel and his team, killing them. So Cyclops had to watch his brother that he had just discovered die. The professor felt so bad about sending Gabriel and the other mutants on the mission that he wiped Scott's mind of the events, even the fact that he had another brother, and had Jean Grey send the island of Krakoa into space. Now this is where the story takes a different turn. Gabriel actually didn't die, he was alive this whole time on Krakoa while it drifted in space, and it was the events of House of M when Wanda took away all those mutants' powers that woke him up. So Gabriel would then return to Earth, and thinking that the X-Men had left him for dead, he kidnapped Scott and Rachel, and after realizing Scott had no recollection of them being brothers, he came to the conclusion that the professor wiped his mind, which he did do, of course. So in order to expose what the professor had done, he needed to lure him out in the open, and he did this by using the Blackbird to kill Banshee, which also killed an entire plane full of people. Yes, Vulcan killed a bunch of people just to get the professor's attention. So after finally getting the professor to show himself, he revealed to the rest of the X-Men what he had done, even the fact that Gabriel wasn't born on Earth. Now it was around this time that the professor didn't have his powers, so they needed Rachel, another telepath, to retrieve his memories as proof. So with the professor revealing what he did, the only question left was how did Gabriel survive? And he really had his teammates to thank for that, Darwin in particular. For those of you who don't know, Darwin's mutation allows him to adapt to any condition in order to survive. And as the other mutants on the island got killed, Darwin absorbed their powers and merged himself with Gabriel, which is what kept both of them alive this whole time. Now remember I said earlier that Wanda taking away all those mutants' powers is what awoken Gabriel. Well, that wasn't all it did. See, all the energy used to remove the powers of those mutants, Gabriel absorbed it, and what it did was push his mutant abilities past Omega level. So this entire event is what made Vulcan into an Omega level mutant. So this level of deception caused Gabriel to disassociate himself from the X-Men and his brother Scott. But Vulcan still had unfinished business because the professor also revealed that Decan, ruler of the Shi'ar Empire, killed his mother. Vulcan would return to the Shi'ar to exact his revenge, but even though he was now an Omega level mutant, his power was still no match for Gladiator and the Imperial Guard. So they overpowered him and had him imprisoned, but he would later escape, and this is where he'd meet Deathbird. Deathbird is another character that appeared in this episode of X-Men 97, and she's also an important part of how Vulcan came to be ruler of the Shi'ar Empire. After rescuing Deathbird from captivity, her and Vulcan eventually fell in love, and this became a little tricky for him because he soon realized that his lover was actually the sister of the man who killed his mother, Lord Decan. In order to repay his debt, Lord Decan offered to use a Shi'ar custom which states that anyone born in the High Palace may have a chance to become royalty in the Shi'ar Empire. So Vulcan took Decan's offer and decided to marry Deathbird. But after the marriage, Vulcan used this opportunity to get his revenge for his mother's death and killed Lord Decan. And since he was already married to his sister, by law he became ruler of the Shi'ar Empire. Now, like his brothers, Vulcan's mutation allows him to absorb and manipulate large amounts of energy. This grants him several abilities, including energy projection, telekinesis, and flight. Vulcan can even manipulate telepathic energies, which allows him to shield himself from powerful telepaths like Jean Grey and the Professor. And as an Omega level mutant, the power of these abilities is greatly increased. Given Vulcan's brief appearance in this episode, we can conclude that he's already aligned himself with the Shi'ar Empire. And since they're in a war with the Kree, my theory is that they're going to be adapting the War of Kings storyline. The War of Kings is essentially a war that took place between the Shi'ar Empire led by Vulcan and the Kree Empire led by the Inhumans and their king, Black Bolt. So I'm not sure how it would work because according to the series, the Ken is already out of the picture. So they're probably going to find another way to make Vulcan become Emperor. But this is just a theory that I have. If you guys are interested in some reading recommendations, check out X-Men Deadly Genesis, Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, 475 to 486, X-Men Emperor Vulcan, and War of Kings. If you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.